Hello, creative, and welcome back to the Empowered Creatives podcast, finding confidence between hustle and burnout. I'm your host, Victoria Hines, creative career coach, helping creatives just like you navigate those career hurdles. I'm so excited about my guest today. Amber Petty is on the show today. She was an actor for 13 years in New York City, and she got tired of waiting for auditions to play the girl who's pleasantly surprised by the scale in Weight Watchers commercials, which I love that part. So after that, she decided to move to LA and started freelance writing. About 5 years later, she now writes full-time and has appeared in the New York Times, Greatest, Parade, IFC, MTV, Bustle, and Snooki's blog, which is, you might have to share the story on that one. That's kind of fun. In addition, Amber teaches actors and creatives how to get into freelance writing and make money. In just a few months, her students have appeared in The Huffington Post, Business Insider, Thrillist Eater, and many more. Welcome to the podcast, Amber.
Yay, thank you so much. It's so good to be here. And yes, I have written for Snooki's blog. Yes, Snooki from the Jersey Shore. I hope people aren't fainting with the thrill of such a name drop. But yeah, that was one of my first writing jobs.
Oh, wow. Can I ask what the topic was about?
She had a blog that was kind of rebranding herself a little more in the mom and lifestyle space. Mm-hmm. So I never, met her personally or talked to her, but she had a company doing blogs, and this company did blogs for a whole bunch of people. So yeah, it was a lot of stuff about crafts to do with toddlers, and then pickle recipes. She was really into pickles. So just this new pickle store opened up. It's really breaking news kind of business.
Absolutely. But hey, somebody's got to write it.
Yeah. It was fun. It was a good way to start, really.
All right. Well, I'm going to start you off with the big bad question. What do artists and creatives need to know is possible today?
It's so funny because I want to say anything is possible, but not in a rainbow, Instagram quote way, because it's sort of the reality of everything is harder than you think it will be, but also there are a billion possibilities. So I think what's tough is when people get very narrow into what their version of success is or what they want to do. When it's I've just got to be in a TV show, or I have to act in a movie, or I've got to be on Broadway. Now that can sound normal, right? That doesn't sound like a crazy goal if you want to be an actor, but that is just such a tiny piece of the pie of creative possibilities. So it's not to say don't have a goal of being a TV show or be on Broadway. That's great. If that's the thing you want to do most and you're trying it and you're enjoying yourself, then that's delightful. Keep that goal. But if you're starting to find that everything in between getting those goals is an abject misery, as it was for me after a while, then know that you're not a failure for giving that up. And there's a lot of things that can actually use the skills you have to be successful. And whatever you do next doesn't even have to be the thing you do forever. It's just another thing. So the idea of writing videos for people, or even going into copywriting or creating graphics for social media for somebody, those they aren't as glamorous as, being in Mission Impossible 8 or whatever, but they can be sometimes more fun, or they can just start to lead you to a place of stability and regaining your confidence so that your life isn't just at the whims of casting directors and agents, and anymore you start to have your own agency. And from there, I've just found a lot of people kind of find the creative stuff that they actually want to do in ways that do have more of a balance. So there's just a lot. Yeah. When your whole life is dependent on a casting director and an agent telling you you're good enough, that can just be a hard life. And I think I've told this story before in different places, but I once was at a callback for a musical theater thing, and a girl was talking about she had 4 callbacks for Wicked, the Wizard of Oz musical, for Glinda, the Good Witch. And at the fourth callback, she was told that her face was too Elphaba shaped. So she was then not given the role. So that's maddening. It's a person that's good enough to be in the show who had the wrong face shape of an imaginary witch with green skin.
And you can't control that.
No, you can't.
Like being told that feedback, and it's just like, well, I can't do anything about that.
And it's like, why didn't you tell me that at the first audition? Because my face has stayed the same. But it's just that kind of stuff. You will encounter that if you're in the world of acting at all. And it's not as bad if you're doing TV writing and stuff, but there's other kind of rando things you'll get. And there's just, it's not that any creative field is like exactly equal and everything's totally fair, but there's ones that are a lot more fair and a lot nicer to deal with. So
there's also something to be said of, I know I felt this, and I mean, we've had conversations around this too. Like my day job and I was pursuing acting, and also my day job was in the theater world. And there was something that was I felt so boxed in creatively because I was just in this like small little segment of the creative universe.
Yeah.
And this was all like, it was my entire life, but it almost felt so lonely. And I had this deep desire of, there are all these incredibly talented, amazingly creative people out there. And all I'm doing is going to see theater shows. I'm not going to galleries and meeting different types of artists and seeing what else is out there. I've sort of like boxed myself in. And I don't know about you, but there was so much freedom in opening those doors and saying, okay, let's explore what else is out here.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, for me at first, when I was starting to really consider changing, not acting anymore, at first it did not feel free. It felt like, great job. Oh, you've wasted so much of your life. Good job. Glad you went to acting school. It felt sad, just like this whole piece of my life just is disappearing. And then that tempts you to stay with it because you're just like, well, I've spent all this time and you just got to hold on. That's what everybody says. And again, for somebody that really believes that, of like, yeah, it's taking a long time, but I know this is what I want to do. Wonderful. Absolutely keep going. For me, it was just like, all of this is a hellscape. So I might get a 2-line part this year. It's not worth it anymore. So at first it was very frightening and sad. So I hate to say that, of like, hey, get ready for sadness. But it's not something that lasts. And I've just found that in the entertainment industry, like you said, how you felt like you're just in this world of theater with nothing else. In any aspect of the entertainment industry, you get very stuck into just like, this is how things work. You go to these auditions, you get used to rejection. Agents will talk to you like you're a child that wronged them with no respect at all. And like you're an idiot who just came to Earth from a spaceship of morons. They will treat you that way. You have to deal with it. You work your way up. It's very linear.
Yes.
And in reality, that's just not how so much of the world works. It's you do something and you meet somebody, and that somebody helps you with the job, and you help somebody else with the job, and you end up here, there, and all over the place. I mean, even the Beatles, it's like they kind of just happened to meet each other and happened to take a job in Germany, a horrible club where they played a million hours. And, like it still wasn't even a pretty clear, like they worked hard and got famous trajectory. Even within that has lots of little weird moves that they could have said no to. That's the kind of you can do anything part you want to believe, of just trying the little bits of things, giving them a go. It just teaches you so much. Even when you get a job and you're like, oops, I hate it. Cool, you can leave. It's not your life's work.
Nope.
Now you know for sure that that's not the job you want to do. Now you can see what else is out there. And that's all harder said than done. But
absolutely. especially when it feels like you're letting go of a dream.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. It feels so scary and sad because everybody just tells you to live your dreams. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes you just have to rethink and reevaluate and just like, is this a dream anymore?
Right.
What does this dream really look like? And is that really what I want to move towards?
Absolutely. Or am I holding myself back from stepping into a new dream of
Yeah.
even, I mean, it goes kind of back to the possible conversation, but opening yourself up to the next possibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Finding that right balance in your career is incredibly difficult as a creative. If you are lacking time, energy, or money to do the thing that you love, it might be time to figure out what needs to change. If you have no idea where to start, I encourage you to grab my free creative career audit. This worksheet will walk you through a process to help you identify what's bringing you joy in your work and what really needs to go. You can head to my website at www.victoriahines.com or grab the direct link in the show notes below. Alrighty, back to the show. So I know we touched on your career as an actor and kind of hitting burnout on Broadway. What made you gravitate towards writing?
Well, I gravitated towards writing and then I was only off Broadway
Oh,
just
sorry.
in case. No. I
Clarification for
just
the
don't want
resume.
to actually accidentally brag. But yeah, so I was ended up being the lead in a musical off Broadway. So it had 8 shows a week, it was in Times Square. It had that regular, same as a Broadway schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I still had to work 2 other jobs if I wanted to, be alive. And so that was not the most fun. And you're auditioning a lot during that time still, or yeah, I put together a cabaret show, still doing a lot all of the time. And then that feeling of just like, oh my God, I can't even change my hair because then I have to get new headshots and I can't plan this trip because somebody might call me in. And just all of that together with all of that work being successful technically, yet I still had to work 2 jobs and I still had
Mm-hmm.
to it just always felt like you were just starting from scratch for me. So it's like, cool, I've done a show for over a year and people are just like, well, I don't care at all. Let's
Mm-hmm.
continue again as though nothing has happened. And that's just a pain. I mean, who wants that? Who wants anybody doesn't want a job where you're like, oh, good, I work really hard and get nothing for it all the time. So I moved to LA with my husband and I didn't want to get a job. I didn't want to get another teaching job or like bartending job or an in-person job basically because I get too attached to them and I was like I don't want anything where I'm going to say no to an audition because I have a shift at
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So my husband in the past had done some freelance writing. He hadn't done it as much in a while. And I knew that was a job. So I just started doing that with the aim of it is the most flexible thing. And yeah, I think I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I started. I applied to things off of Craigslist. There was a friend of a friend of a friend who was an editor. And so I got a couple articles that way. Yeah, got that darling Snooki job, high level stuff. And I found that even though the stuff I was writing, none of it was like fancy, here's my life story, or like I'm covering these. It's all just like silly crap that was fun for the most part, writing
Mm-hmm.
about 10 things you never knew about Footloose. I enjoy that. So it was all that kind of stuff. And then I found myself enjoying that so much more. I'd get a commercial audition and be like, oh, but I'm writing today. And just even the fact of you get to write something, it is online and you get paid for it and your name is on it. That is very satisfying when you've had most of your life with no control over
Right.
your creative output. So that was really cool. And the fact that it was, you were able to work up faster, not instantly, but it did feel like, okay, I'm putting some work in and I'm getting something in return, as opposed to those like really spinning in place cycles that are easy to get into in other aspects of entertainment. So yeah, that's how I got
Segued
into
into
it.
the
And
writing world.
yeah.
I love the kind of the comparison of going from this career, which I can greatly relate to, of feeling like you didn't have much agency. Literally, the agents were taking all of your
Yeah.
agency and control away. And then stepping into this world of creative writing for blogs and other medium sources and realizing, oh, wait, I can produce something, put it out there with my name on it, and it's there. And I'm wondering how did your confidence shift or change through that flip?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. Because at first it was still hard for me. So part of the thing that made it easier was this wasn't my life's work. I was still trying to be an actor. And so this I could have a little more of a, I don't know, lackadaisical approach
Mm-hmm.
to it of like, I don't know, if you don't like it, you don't like it. This isn't my this isn't my dream. Take it or leave it. So it kind of started that way, which made it easier. It still was hard at first because it's new. And with writing, even when it is something silly, it's still like you're telling somebody, hey, I'm good enough to be paid for this. And that
Mm-hmm.
can mess with your brain a little bit. But just getting started and being able to get some yeses,
Mm-hmm.
fairly quickly amongst the no's. And also seeing that what I was doing was, it didn't have to be 110%. It could be 100%. It could sometimes be 60%, and that was still fine because my idea, of course, of 100% is too much as a
Way
perfectionist.
above everybody else. Yep.
So, as all perfectionists are. And so, kind of recalibrating that scale. And then, yeah, getting paid for something you do, it does boost your confidence and it does make you feel like change is possible, to kind of make it melodramatic. But, it was like, oh, there are these other things. And from there, I did
Mm-hmm.
copywriting as a full time job. And I worked for a small business. And then that helped me start my own business. So, again, it was like a real weirdo line to where I am now. And then Lord even knows where I'll be in 5 years. I'm sure a bunch of weird stuff to get there. But just starting by writing a dumb article about pickles for Snooki, like, allowed me to get out of this depressed, stagnant state and into actual like control over my own life.
Mm-hmm. It was a yes. It was the universe saying, yes, we want your work. We want your creativity. We want your name on it. And having that opportunity kind of given to you without, having to fight tooth and nail for it.
Yeah.
Not that you're not putting in work, but you're not fighting tooth or nail for something that you're likely not. Like the odds are so slim.
Yeah. Because the work is different,
Mm-hmm.
of the tenacity to simply put in a bunch of job applications or send in pitches. It takes a bravery, it can be scary and stuff like that, but it's easier to get in the flow of it. And you don't see anybody, nobody's telling you to your face that you're too fat or that your face is wrong or that you're just like, or that you're not looking at you while they talk. You don't have to deal with any of that stuff that is very hard to sit
Yeah.
through. So after, waiting 6 hours to sing 30 seconds of a song at a musical open call, I'm like, yeah, I'll send out 20 job applications. That sounds like a dream. So it is work, but it's not that same sensitive, like delicate ego destroying work.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the rate of acceptance compared to acting is still much higher.
Do you feel like you've found a lot of freedom? Do you find that you're still writing with that sense of, I don't want to say nonchalantness, but that sense of it's not life or death?
No, that really is a good way to put it. I have to remind myself of that, honestly, because as I transition into different types of writing, and because writing is my career and business and everything now, it like becomes more important. And so I have times where it does become life and death and, oh, but this is my name. And, oh, and I have to remind myself of just like, it's just not true ever. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't help me to think of it that way. And it's not to say that writing isn't important. It can be important in a lot of ways. But overall, if I want to, share a story about a commercial audition I had that was funny, no one's life is being harmed or saved by that. It's just a
Yes.
step in the right direction. So I've found for me and students that that's a thing that doesn't, if you're a person that gets passionate about things, which I'm guessing all of your listeners are, it's not something that goes away, but you learn how to manage it more easily and then manage the good parts of it that help you work towards the stuff you want to do and persevere through the crappy times that come with any job. But also then know when to say, all right, thank you. You're making this harder. That I don't need to listen to.
Absolutely. Speaking of your students, I'm curious to know, what have you seen as the biggest change of actors or other students coming into your classes to learn how to publish work and get paid for it? What do you see as the change from them entering your class and then having their work produced?
It really is that sense that things are possible that they didn't expect. So a lot of people come into the class without writing experience at all, or they've written screenplays or things like that in the past, but nothing like this. And so both seeing that, it sounds so funny, but it's like not putting your heart into it sometimes is a good way to start. Because especially if you're a person who's like had your heart broken a bunch of times by career things or whatever, it can then be so much harder to get started in anything else, of course, because you've been burned before. So when you can take it as like, I'm going to take this seriously enough to do it, and do the class and send things out there. But like, again, my life doesn't depend on it. My name, my legacy doesn't depend on it. It allows you to do things. And I had one student, Robin, who had given up the idea of writing a long time ago. She kind of had it in high school, and then it just melted away. This was during the pandemic, and she was between stuff and really frustrated. And she took my class and had no samples. And again, like, wasn't sure what was going to happen. And so her first thing she got published was on BuzzFeed. It was about 100 types of candy, basically, with like little descriptions next to it. And it was a thing. She's like, it's probably too late to be for Halloween or whatever, but she's like, well, just try it anyway. So it got up for Halloween. BuzzFeed asked her to do a few more articles after that. And from those bylines, she got more work. And now she does write full time, mostly just about food. And she's even started like managing other people's social media. That's her full time stuff now that she gets to do. So she really went from, this is a dream I've entirely given up on, to, oh, I'm actually doing this full time in like a year, So, and it started from a article about candy. It's not something crazy. And then I'm sure in the future she'll write more stuff that is more personal to her, or write fiction, or, add and grow and continue to develop in whatever way suits her. But now she has this baseline where she knows that creativity is something that can be a job, and she can do it. She can change anything if she needs to. And she knows her writing abilities are worth paying for. And so all of that makes you more comfortable with change and malleable in the future. And just that lesson of like, even if you're not making a ton of money, making a living with any creativity is great news, especially when you have not been making a living. So that's a big thing of just that kind of amazement of like, this actually can happen to me. It's not impossible. And I am better than I thought. I've given myself no slack, all the critiques, all the criticisms, but actually, yes, I am more than eligible for being paid to write these things. So that's something I see. Again, that makes it all sound like it's a breeze, and it's not. There's still a lot of rejection and stuff, but a lot of good things do happen from it.
It sounds like it's also the art of just being able to do more and make more and put more offers out there, and having those yeses and successes coming in, reaffirming you that, hey, you can do this work, and we value this work, and we value you as a creative.
Yeah. And that, I mean, especially, we've all been living through really hard times and sort of isolated times and just not good all around. And so the power of somebody saying yes to you is extra helpful right now. And it goes a long way. Like the no's, you feel those too, of course, and everybody gets a lot of them. But a yes can really erase those feelings for quite a while. When you get that, it's like, oh, who cares about those other rejections? Because I got this one. And yeah, you'll be sad again about rejections eventually, but like they float you a long time. And no matter what your job or career, what you want to do, just getting those little bits of affirmation, they just help you keep a happier outlook on life and just help you get towards anything, whatever it is you want to do.
Absolutely. All right. I have one last question for you, and then I'd love to know how we can keep in touch. What advice would you give to an artist who is looking to feel more confident in their career today?
Ooh, great. I do think kind of on the themes I've talked about today, but looking for little yeses, that can be great. So if you are writing a screenplay or writing a novel, that's wonderful. Great. If there's any little thing you can do in the meantime to sort of help you get a yes along the way, that's going to make it much more likely you're going to finish that thing. So whether that's a small article you pitch that's based on your research you've done, or a little short story you've had before that you just pitch, even if it's for free in a literary journal, or you also tutor people, or you in any little thing in life, doesn't have to be huge, put it out there, and that affirmation will just help you move towards whatever you want to do. And when everything is in long-term projects, it is helpful to have that because it takes a lot of endurance to get through there.
So, Amber, how can we keep in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm at amberpetty.com. And if you're at all interested in writing, I have a fun resource where I have a list of over 250 places to pitch articles, and they all pay, and they take people, most of them take people of all experience levels. So if you want to check that out, that's at amberpetty.com/250. And check out that. That'll also put you on my email list where I send out writing jobs and tips and stuff like that. That's super helpful. Lots of people have gotten jobs just from reading the newsletter. And I have free classes a lot of the time. So you'll see that on my website, but I do have free classes kind of about like beginning freelance writing or fighting perfectionism, all that stuff. So you can find that there too. And I'm at Amber N. Petty on Instagram. Very inconsistent on Instagram, but maybe I'll be more consistent soon. But you can also see stuff there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amber, for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad Amber could join me on the podcast this week. I truly instantly connected with her story of moving away from acting and finding that new creative outlet, which I think all of us sometimes need. So here's your one thing this week. I want you to find a small yes. What's one way you can put yourself out there in a small way and just see if you can get a yes? If you're not sure what constitutes as small, feel free to send me a message on Instagram and we can figure that out together. All right. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast this week. Definitely rate, review, and subscribe. Next week, there's going to be a really great episode, solo episode from me. Until the next time, stay creative.